It's computer. Right. So what I'll do now, I will. Oops, sorry. I'll just share screen. So is the screen shared? Can you see? Good, thanks. So we will be resuming with verse chapter 2, verse 9 of the Bhagavad Gita. Has everybody found all the materials, and in particular my analysis, the one you have up on screen now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, good. So if any of you can't find it or have difficulty finding it, do just let me know. And I think you should all have received a copy of my updated explanatory glossary. Very good.
Yes, yes.
So I will read this out slowly, as usual. Evamuktva Rishikesham Gudakeshah Parantapaha Nayotsya iti Govindamuktva Tushnim Babhuvaha. And I've just noticed, I corrected from the previous version, Babhuvaha, particle ha at the end. Doesn't really add very much meaning, but it's jolly useful if you're a poet and you need one extra syllable in your line. This is Arjuna now sinking into the depths of despair. And these words, Nayotsya iti, they could stand to get the prize for the most famous string of words in the Bhagavad Gita. I will not fight. So let's examine this then. Eva muktva, evam, thus, and it represents a quote of the words just said. So thus, having spoken or having said, this uktva is the absolutive form, having said. We've got two absolutives here. Eva muktva, thus having said, and Nayotsya iti govindam uktva, having said the preceding words to Govinda, tushnim babhuvasa. So we've got the same Arjuna, three verbs apply to what has been done. First verb uktva, as normal, a string of three verbs, so all but the last will go in the absolutive, having said, he did so and so. And the second one also uktva, having said, and then the finite verb babhuva. So uktva, if I explain why it becomes uktva, okay. Is there anybody here who is completely familiar with the formation and the reason for the formation in that way of the verb uktva. Are you all completely familiar with how you can trace it back? I was hoping you'd all raise your hands and said, yes, I can.
I can try, James.
Okay, Madeline.
From what I remember and what I know, it's an absolutive.
Yes.
And it comes from the verb, the root vach.
Correct.
Vach.
Yes.
And to make the absolutive is, you say uktva. Uktva is the absolutive. That's what I remember.
You are completely correct.
Thank you.
However, you are correct, but not yet complete in the steps. Can you describe how you get from vach and toi to uktva?
Oh yes.
I'm sure you know this.
I know. Now you remind me.
Yeah.
Okay, vach. The root start with a V, and the V becomes U.
Right, yes, by the process of some prasarana. And what's happened to the cha?
Cha becomes K. The C becomes K.
Okay, by internal sandhi before a T.
Yeah.
Correct. So let me just call up, hang on, what am I doing here? Let me just call up the, can you see a boy upside down over a trampoline at the moment? So if I got the screen
Yes.
right. That was actually, this was over 10 years ago. And that was one of the, I took that, was one of these accidental shots. You know, you might take 1,000 shots, and one of them will just turn out perfect.
I hope he didn't break his neck in the process.
Okay, I think there are two categories of people. So I don't mean to be sexist or anything. But there are two categories of people who get terribly worried about boys on trampolines. One is their mothers, and the other is doctors. He broke bones. He was damned lucky, and nor did he break a neck. But I mean, ever since he was little, he'd always loved throwing himself off heights and doing a flip and landing perfectly. So he'd been doing that ever since a little child. It was just a built-in backwards flip that he was virtually born with. So I'm just going to pull up my iPad so I can. You right with you? Should be with you in a second. Here we are. So Madeline was completely correct in saying, that the uktva, we're looking at uktva, comes from the root vach, meaning to say or to speak. And it's the same, I'm sure you know this from me before or from elsewhere before, it's the same root as the Latin vox, meaning voice, from which we get our modern English voice and vocal. It's that same word. So what we want to do, we want to take this root vach and we add to it the toi, what we call the absolutive form, which just means having done, so having said. So two things happen. First of all, by the internal sandhi. This is called internal sandhi because toi is treated as part of the same word, so it's with sandhi within the word rather than at the junction between two different words. So you always find that where you get a ch followed by a t, it becomes a k. So then stage one, this word doesn't exist yet, but stage one, it would be vak-toi, vach-toi, vak-toi. Now, by a survival from the Vedic accentuation system, it was accented on the final syllable, on the twa, and you very often find that where you have a v followed by an accented syllable after it, the va just becomes an u. It's kind of a softening of it. So the vaktva becomes uktva. And the past part, the same happens with the past participle ending in ta. So vach plus ta, for example, by that same process becomes ukta. But it is the same word with that kind of regular internal change. So thus saying, thus having said, in this verse, we've got Evam Muktva Hrishikeshang Gudakeshaha. So we know from this that this is the nominative ending, so it's Gudakeshaha, who is doing the speaking, and the accusative is Rishikesham. Note that the yes, welcome, Oka, welcome. Note that the verbs speaking to or saying to, in English we use the preposition to, but in Sanskrit, and the same applies in Pali, it takes the direct object. There's a bit of background noise. I think it's from your system, Orca. Could you?
Yes, it is. I got workers here, and I'm going to mute myself. So.
Okay, very good. Thanks. Thank you. So Gudakesha, literally bull-haired, and this big curly hair is obviously done into a bun or a ball. Said to Hrishikesha, said to have, so Gudakesha, having thus spoken to Hrishikesha, and Gudakesha, the Parantapa, the scorcher of his enemies, is a para. Para actually normally just means other, but it can mean, by extension of meaning, it can also mean enemy. And the tap, we know that root tap meaning to burn. We have it in the word, for example, tapas meaning spiritual austerities. So the parantapa is the enemy burner, the one who burns up his enemies. So Gudakesha, having said this to Rishikesha, Nayotsya iti Govindamuktva tushnim babhuvaha. The actual words, yes, welcome, Marco. The actual words that.
Welcome.
Yeah, glad to see you with us. The actual words spoken by Arjuna, these famous words, were actually Nayotsye. But here it's written as Nayotsya iti, and that is by Sandhi. So here we do see it occasionally happening that when you apply Sandhi, you are quoting an exact word, or the exact word spoken, but applying Sandhi with this iti, meaning thus, unquote, that will sometimes change the form of the word actually spoken. So Nayotsye iti, by Sandhi, the e becomes ai, so that's why it becomes Nayotsya iti. Nayotsya or Nayotsye. If you're saying the words on there, Nayotsye. Okay, Madeleine has just distinguished herself by explaining Uktva is there anybody else before we go back to Madeleine who can explain the form Yotzie and what is the root and why it becomes Yotzie?
I might be able to do so.
Have a go, Dani.
So it's a form of ai, and in that case we take one a off, and it stays just one a and e. I would see a as a plus I.
Mm.
So Yotzie, it would actually be Yotzie.
Mm.
Is that right? Or
Not
so we
quite.
take the I away, and it stays just Yotzia.
Okay, let me just call it up on screen. The actual words that he said.
It's basically what I'm doing is a step back. So A would be A plus I. And so I take the last I away, and they say Yotzia. Does it make sense?
I think you're kind of getting warm, as you say. You're nearly there. What's happened is actually there were two separate things I was asking about. Just looking at the actual form, that word on its own, the words that Arjuna actually spoke were Nayotsie. Now, the next word in the text is iti. Nayotsie iti, and by the exigencies, by the requirements of Sandhi, e followed by I, it becomes just asunayotsia iti. But if you look at the word that he actually said, the words na yotsie. So what I'm asking for now, you can have another go, Danny, now that I'm focusing your mind on the question I was after. Explain yotsie. Or can anybody, apart from Madeleine, you've had your go, Madeleine, can anybody explain? Yes, Roger, please.
Well, I can explain part of it. I think the E at the end is because it's Atmane Pita.
Atmanipada, yes.
It's a middle version of the verb yud. So I'm assuming the UDH comes OT with the future.
It does exactly so.
Does that explain it?
It does, yes.
Yeah.
So what happens is we've got the root yud, meaning to fight. And with guna, with the strengthening of the u, it becomes yud in certain circumstances. It's the name of the city, Ayodhya, literally the unfightable, therefore the invincible. In fact, the Thais call it Ayutthaya, and it was their city, Ayutthaya, was rather ironically named that because that was sacked and destroyed in a Burmese invasion. We're talking 2 or 3 centuries ago. Anyway, Yud. The most common way of forming the future is to put an ish, as you know, ishyati. It will be bhavishyati. He, she, it will go gamishyati, ishyati. In several cases, you don't have this link vowel I, so you just put the syati directly onto the root. So it's the character, this adding of a s to the s or ish to the root is characteristic of the future. So sometimes it's just a s added to the root. Let's make first person would be syami. I will go, gamishyami. The ending ami is the parasmaipada, the active endings. The equivalent for the parasmaipada, first person singular I, is just a. So instead of ami, you put a. So here we have the future then in sie, the atmanipada future. So we're now going to apply guna. So we've got yod. Just redo this. Yod plus future atmanepada tie. So my pen's going, but it's gonna. So yod sie, and then as Roger just correctly observed, then the d by sandhi becomes a t. So that's how we get yod sie. If it were a parasmaipada verb, but an active transitive verb making its future in the more common ishya, it would be yudhishyami. So what has happened there? So it's not yudhishyami, but it's atmanepada, so yudhishye instead of the army, a instead of the army. And the other difference is that for this verb you make the future not adding the ish, but just the s on its own as the sign of the future. So yudhye, and then the d before a s by internal sandhi becomes a t. So yudhye, na yudhye.
So, sorry, James, could you explain again how the army becomes in A?
Okay, certainly I can. You know the regular conjugation of, let's take a very simple verb. Bhavami,
Yeah,
bhavasi,
I am.
bhavati. You know, this is kind of grammar book page one conjugation verb now.
Yeah.
And you're familiar with the atmanepada and the parasmaipada.
Yeah, those words confuse me, I think.
Okay, the parasmaipada is more the active, transitive. And the atmana, the parasmai, the pada here meaning word, parasmai for another, word for another. In other words, the transitive action of the verb, parasmaipada. The atmanepada is what's called the middle verb, where it's an action more directed towards oneself.
Oh, I see. Yeah, like reflexive.
It is very much like, it's not exactly a reflexive, but it's within the same bag as the reflexive. In many cases, the English would use the reflexive, where the Sanskrit would use the atmanepada. For example, you can have the active, the passive, and the middle. So the active is the mother washes the baby. The passive is the baby is washed by the mother. But if you have a wash, in other words, you're washing yourself, you have a wash, that's the reflexive form, and that would often be seen in the atmanepada. So you're washing yourself rather than washing something or someone else.
Yeah, I got that.
And so in the parasmaipada, you'll often see these in dictionaries shortened to P and A. So bhavami in the parasmaipada is simply bhave.
Yeah.
That's simply the first person parasmaipada ending. And the others are a bit easy, just change the E to A. So bhavase.
Bhavate.
Bhavate, exactly. So the nayotsie, what you're seeing here is this A, first person singular atmanepada.
Yeah.
So na yud. I do not fight is na yud. Oh goodness me, I can't. What class verb is it? Help me, somebody. I think is it a class 6 verb? Can't see me forgetting what class verb it is. Just calling up in advance.
Ooh, it would be class maybe Pava. Is it Boo? Is it from Boo? Class 1?
It is. You are right. Well done, darling. It is ordinary class 1 verb. Here we are. Hang on, let me just ignore, turn highlight off. There we are, yud. So it's class 1 and class 4. That's what threw me. Sometimes there are several verbs that can indiscriminately belong to 2 classes. Some even belong to 3. So yud, that's right. It's more commonly class 4 atmanepada. So yudhyate. So he does not fight, or he fights yudhyate. I fight, as in the present tense is yudhye. And also it appears as a class 1 parasmapada, yudhati. But I think that is less common. It's more common to see it as a class 4.
So why is it atmanepada? Why is it not just I will not fight? Why is that not just not parasmapada? Because you're fighting somebody else, aren't you? You'd think it'd be a straightforward transitive.
You would have thought so, Paladin. But let me tell you a little story.
Mm-hmm.
If you go back to Vedic times, there was a fairly clear distinction by the Vedic times, and say right back to the 1800 BC, which is roughly where we can date the Rig Veda. In Vedic, there was a much clearer distinction made between the parasmapada and the atmanepada. And if you saw a verb with an atmanepada form, you could almost always correctly guess that had a reflexive or an intransitive for oneself meaning. As time went on, as the millennium rolled by, a millennium and more than a millennium, and then we get into the time of classical Sanskrit, that distinction became somewhat blurred, and you get verbs that just turn up as an atmanepada without any real reason for it. Or the real reason just got lost in the mists of time.
If it was fighting somebody specific, if it was somebody saying I will specifically not fight you, would it pop up in the parasmapada instead? It's because he's kind of saying I'm just not going to go into a fight, isn't he? So I can sort of see.
Yeah, that would be. You'd expect to see that. For example, if somebody is challenged to a fight, and then he might respond, "Well, I'm not the fighting type. I don't fight. I'm not the type to fight." That could be more atmanepada, because he's talking about his internal disposition. But I will fight you. You see, and that should be distinctly parasmapada, and that's how it would have worked back in Vedic days. But that distinction got blurred. You do see that distinction carefully observed in some verbs. One quite interesting example of it is the verb yaj, meaning to sacrifice, which is a class 1 verb, and it's parasmapada and atmane. So it's yaj, class 1, P and A, parasmapada and atmanepada. And you find the usage is very different. Sorry, the usage is distinct, not very different. The usage is distinct in that it often happened that a Brahmin was invited to conduct a ceremony, a sacrificial ceremony, for somebody else, for a ruler, for a household, people who are having a particular ceremony, and the Brahmin would conduct the ceremony at their place or at a temple where he was invited to do it by specific people for a specific purpose. And that would tend to use the parasmaipada. He's conducting it for somebody else, yajati. But if he's conducting his own private ceremonies as part of his own spiritual practice, then the Atmanepada would be used. And that usage, that distinction, has survived into classical Sanskrit. So you see yajati, yajate being distinct in meaning there. And you also see, for example, from the root G, you can have Jayati, Atmanepada, and also Jayate.
Are you writing on your pad?
Sorry, thank you, yeah. In the Pali class yesterday, a lot of the people were very new and were at class for the first time, and there were some there who ought to have known better, but they were all too shy to kind of shout out, "Are you writing? Are you writing?" Because people like you've been with for a long time, you will immediately shout. Whereas they were far too shy. I'd written half a page before somebody shyly said, "Are you writing on your iPad?" So I've now given them liberty to shout immediately and loud when they catch me doing that. So G, to conquer, to defeat. And again, there's an interesting and subtle difference of usage. If you are conquering or defeating a specifically named enemy, you are focusing on the transitive, the active, the actual defeating somebody else. And you will see the Parasmaipada used. Arinjayati, he defeats the enemy. Now, look at the logo of the Republic of India. Sort of pen's going funny again. Which is Satyam, the truth. Eva, Jayate, Satyameva Jayate, and you see that in the logo of the Republic of India. That means it is the truth that will conquer, that will emerge victorious. So it's not focusing on conquering or defeating specific things, but will emerge victorious overall. It will emerge victorious over hatred, violence, lies, falsehoods. And so the Atmanepada there is used. So that just gives you a flavor of the difference between them.
James, can I just ask a quick question about the way in which you've organised your Devanagari in your analysis? Because I've managed to get myself a bit confused this morning.
Certainly, I will have that. Let me just call it back up. Here we are. Here we are. Yeah.
Right. Am I correct in thinking that the first two lines of Devanagari is with Santi?
Yeah. Yes, that's correct. With yeah, what's happened? The first one is Devanagari fully applying Sandhi, and as you will actually see it written in an ordinary printed book, following all the rules and conventions of Sandhi and spelling.
Right. Is that okay?
Now, for example, if you look at Eva Muktva,
James is frozen.
Sorry? So did somebody try to say something just then?
I thought you froze. Maybe it's my internet. What happened with other people?
You were perfectly clear to me, James.
Okay, so there may have been just a brief freeze.
I apologize, James.
Okay, not to worry, Roger.
Sorry.
So this, what is separate, this one here just separates out the words purely to help students. You would not see a normal printed book printed in that way.
Right.
So, for
Okay.
example, here, and I've done exactly the same in the first text box. I have copied the Devanagari in this text box exactly as it appears in the first block of Devanagari. So, for example, Eva Muktva, as a matter of Devanagari spelling, if you look here, it's Evam, new word Uktva. It's separated out like that to help the students divide the words. But if you're writing in Devanagari, it's Eva Muktva. And if you look at this mu here, it's part of two different words. The m belongs to the previous word and the u belongs to the next word. But it's just a peculiarity of the Devanagari script that it's just written as if it's all one word. I don't know who had that idea. Marco, do you know, why did anybody have that idea to write it all as if it was one long word?
Yeah, James, I think what confused me was when I was looking at your YouTube upload on this, I didn't see it. Maybe it wasn't there. The first couple of verses of the Devanagari was Santi. And then when I tried to compare that with the Roman in your first box, I was getting myself a bit confused.
Okay, is that clear now that the first first two lines are exactly reflected in the first box? The second two lines then are reflected. I've written Eva Muktva there. Sorry, I'm mucking it up. Come on. I've written Eva Muktva all as one word simply because to reflect what it is in the Devanagari script. But it's done here, Eva Muktva. So Evam, it's fine to write that in Roman script, but this way of writing it, Evam, new word Uktva, in normal Devanagari, in any normal printed book, you would not see it like that. It's just written like that as an aid to the students. I'm sorry, back to you, Marco. I'm not. Is anything known? Do you know about why it came to be written like that? It's always been a little bit of a puzzle to me. We can't hear you, Marco.
Hear me now?
Oh, yes, yeah, we can hear you now.
I think it's because of the scarcity of the material, the writing material, and you know that they compiled complex shastras, and even joining the letter together, so like in the first script, it helps to save. It was a costly material which had to be processed. So nowadays in India they say we have to stick to the tradition, but I think that your way of also split, it's very helpful, and I like it. I've never seen anywhere else, but it's a great help.
Okay, very good. So that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, nowadays we're so used to ease of printing and just print anything you want as much. But back in those days, not only the costly materials, but it was all human labor. When you were doing a copy of something, it was all done by the human hand. So they would often take shortcuts. So yeah, that's a very good point. Thank you, Marco. By the way, this way of splitting up the words, I wish I could claim it as my invention. It's not. This is actually an edition of the Bhagavad Gita. I forget where I found it, but it was produced in India. But it's got this second line simply for ease of learning for India, even students for whom the Devanagari script is their native script, like the Hindi and Marathi and Nepali speakers. So this is just a way of even this is as they done in India for Indian students.
I love it.
James, I think what must have happened is when you filmed for your upload, perhaps you'd scroll down so that the first two verses weren't visible on the screen.
Ah, right. Okay.
Anyway, that's fine. That makes complete sense. Thank you.
And also here you see, this is just a question of spelling. That's pure spelling. A spelling convention, eva muktva, written as one word. But look down now to here. Look at this. Nayotsye iti. He has not applied sandhi, because correctly it's like this nayotsya iti, with the correct application of sandhi, ending in a, the next word begins in e, becomes e, nayotsya iti. So not only have they separated the words out as a matter of spelling convention to break the convention, but also they've left the original form here. It's called sandhi vigraha. Vigraha is a word meaning taking out. Sandhi vigraha, taking out the sandhi. In other words, you write everything down without applying the rules of sandhi. So I say you can't get away with it if you're just writing ordinary Sanskrit, but it's done for the benefit of students. Though I should say I have seen some modern newspapers or magazines in Sanskrit, again designed for learners, where they will give you your little news stories in simplified Sanskrit, and they will be very loose in applying the sandhi. Often they will write it without applying sandhi at all. For example, asit means was not is nasit, but they were written nasit, but they will write na asit, which is a violation of the strict rules of sandhi, but is done just to make life easier for students. For example, look at this, eva muktva. The word, I'm going to separate it here. The word eva, of course, exists. The word muktva exists. The two words exist. So, eva muktva, this wouldn't quite make sense in this context, but eva muktva, you could find those words together in Sanskrit. If you then put them together and run them all together without making the word divisions, which also occasionally happens in Devanagari, there is an ambiguity there. But this then the way of writing it here completely resolves all of the ambiguity.
I like it, James. It really helps.
Well, I say it does really help. However,
It really helps.
It does really help, but I suppose, like so many of these things, we've got to get just a little bit used to not relying too much, not becoming dependent upon these aids. But yes, it certainly does. It certainly does help.
It also clearly shows the difference between the separation and join together, how the Devanagari start to change a bit.
Exactly so. It's exactly so. So when I saw this, I came across this edition by chance. And when I saw it, I was delighted. I liked it so much. I said, "Hey, I'm just going to paste this entire book and you use it in these texts as an aid for the students." As I say, I wish I could claim credit for it. I can't. I just saw it, liked it, and gave it here for you. Now I'm just trying to adjust. Ah, fine. Okay, good. I'd had a problem with my screen, but because the way I'd adjusted my screen, some of you had dropped off the bottom, including Orca, but I've now readjusted it and I can see all of you. That's fine again. And another thing they've done, you see, for example, tushnim, this word written on its own is written with a m, with virama, this virama, that slash under the m, meaning that there's no vowel. But with an immediately following consonant, it's written as the anuswara. So tushnim babhuva. But what they've basically done is they've taken each word and written it as if it were being written on its own, with no word before it and no word after it. Therefore, no sandhi to apply. I should mention, however, that this sandhi vigraha, the way they've done it here, does not apply to internal sandhi. Now, I was explaining to you just a few minutes ago that this uktva, originally it began life as vachtva, it becomes vaktva, and then by some prasarana, uktva. With internal sandhi, this system leaves the internal sandhi as it is. Otherwise, if they've written vachtva, and you can't do that, in no circumstances are you allowed to do that. You're writing a word that doesn't exist. So it's legitimate and logical to do the sandhi vigraha, na yotsye iti govindam uktva, that's fine. But with the internal sandhi, you've got to follow that. Otherwise, you produce a word that does not, in fact, exist at all. So vachtva does not exist as a word. I just mentioned vachtva because it's what you might call an intermediate form. How do you get from vach to uktva? Well, you explain it by giving intermediate forms that do not, in fact, exist. So vachtva does not exist. It has to become vaktva. Vaktva itself does not exist because that becomes uktva. So, as I say, internal sandhi, you've got to apply. So all of these words that you see written here, they are all proper, correct words, but simply written in isolation without regard for sandhi. So Nayutsya, so Eva Mukdva, having spoken in that way, Hrishikesham to Hrishikesha. So Gudakesha Parantapaha, Gudakesha, the enemy burner, having spoken thus to Hrishikesha. Nayutsya iti Govindu Mukdva. Mukdva saying, having said, Nayutsye, having said, I will not fight, Tushnim Babhuvaha, fell silent. So this iti, you know, it's just iti, literally thus, and it closes a quote. So I will not fight, unquote. And I think you all know that this iti, it's the same one that in Pali is shortened just to ti. It's very frequently used to close a quote. Just remember, you never open a quote. You use the iti to close the quote, but not to open a quote. So there can occasionally be some ambiguity. You see a string of words followed by iti, and iti, okay, you know iti is unquote, but where does the quote start? Mostly it's clear enough, sometimes it's not. So sometimes it's unclear where this quote begins. And this iti is almost always used in this sense of close quote, but it's occasionally used to open a sentence, meaning, in the light of the foregoing or according to what has been said. In fact, in one of our Pali chants, a very frequent Pali chant, Itipi so bhagava, itipi, thus indeed is he. So all these reports of him say so and so, itipi, thus indeed, so bhagava, thus indeed is that blessed one. But that's the less common usage. The by far the most common usage is, as you see here, unquote. So, tushnim babhuvaha. Tushnim actually is an invariable word. It looks as if it's the accusative of a feminine form, tushni, but you almost always find it in this indeclinable form, and most commonly followed by bu, or a variant of bu, just meaning to be silent. And in the past tense here, past definite tense, fell silent. With that, he fell silent. I just want to double check that I'm got this right, what I've told you. Okay, so I've looked up tushni on its own, and it doesn't give it to me, but tushnim. Hang on. Why isn't it giving it to me? Oh, sorry, I know why it's not. It's tushnim, silly me. Is it tushnim? It is, yeah. Yes, here we are. So if you look up tushni on its own, doesn't exist. Tushnim, which looks like an accusative, it may in an earlier stage of the language have been an accusative. I don't actually know, but we treat it as an indeclinable, just silently or just falling silent. And this babhuva is it's a form of the past. It's known as the perfect simply because it corresponds to the Greek and one of the Latin forms of the perfect. It's actually slightly irregular. If it followed the regular rules, it would have been babhava, but in fact it's babhuva, which is just like that. And incidentally, for the Pali students among you, this babhuva is, so far as I'm aware, I'm reasonably sure it's right to say, this is the only, or almost the only, this babhuva and uvacha, just the two very rare survivals in Pali of this Sanskrit form. It's fairly common in Sanskrit, but only a couple of instances in Pali. So eva mukva hrishikesham gudakesha parantapa nayotsya iti govinda muktva tushnim babhuvaha. I don't know if there's a little bit of a fun play on words here, but you've got Akesha and Akesha there. There's no connection between them. Hrishikesha is Hrishika Isha, which then by Sanskrit becomes Hrishikesha, whereas Gudakesha is Guda, a ball, Kesha, hair. So I think it was just the poet having a little play with words. This Hrishikesha, Hrishika Isha. Isha means a lord. Hrishika means the senses, as in the senses of the body. So it's lord of the senses. It's one of the epithets of Krishna. The word Rishika, I've noted it in my explanatory glossary. It's one of those words that leaves me feeling a little bit unsatisfied with the research, because Hrisha, the Hrisha, one's hair standing on end, excitement, we've got that. But why does Hrishika mean a sense, as in the senses, sight and smell and so on? I don't know, and I haven't worked it out. The dictionaries haven't helped me. If anyone can help me on it, please do. Fortunately, the number of words, or the proportion of words that you just cannot work out, you cannot get to the bottom of, is pretty small in Sanskrit. So we just have to learn to live with ignorance when we can't get it. So, Anne, do you feel inclined to give us a recitation of this verse? By the way, I should mention, for anyone who's new or who doesn't remember the system, if at this stage when we're reciting, if at this stage I can see your face, you've left your video on and I can see you, that is your signal to me that you are volunteering to be called on to recite. If anyone wants to, and we're a very small number here. If you don't want to recite, that either just say no, or you can blank out. I think most of you know the system. Okay, Anne, yes, please.
Okay. Evam muktva rishikesham gudakesha parantapaha na yotsyat iti govinda muktva tushnim babuvaha.
Okay, very good. I did notice it's a small point, but it's worth looking at. I noticed a slight break in your voice, evam uktva. It's not wrong, but that suggests to me that you might have been looking at this one rather than this one. So
no, I was looking at that one, and I just thought, oh, I've emphasized the wrong letter. So.
And also, if anyone who's, for example, a German speaker, if there were a German speaker, would find it almost impossible to say Evam Uktva, because the Germans always put in this glottal Evam Uktva. They kind of feel they had to pronounce it as a separate. But that's very German. We do the exact opposite in Sanskrit. In fact, it would be wrong to say Evam Uktva as a German would. It's got to flow Evam Uktva. Marco, have you had any Germans in your chanting groups, or native German speakers?
Unfortunately not.
Because if you do ever get a German in your chanting groups, it would be very interesting to see whether you notice that particular German feature. In fact, interestingly enough, there was some years ago there was a German lady. She'd been living here for many years, married to an Englishman. When she spoke English, she sounded exactly like a native English speaker, but there was that one thing she could not get rid of. So she couldn't say, I live in England. I live in England. She had to, I live in England. The Germans do it. But if you do ever get a German in your group, Marco, it'd be interesting to see how they manage that.
He's got a Chinese in his group.
Okay, well, okay, Naoka. Are you? Do I take that as you volunteering to read it?
No.
Okay, not to worry.
As you know, I'm always shy.
I know you are, but you weren't shy about giving us possible contribution to the Chinese pronunciation. I'm inviting you to overcome your shyness, so I'm breaking my own rule now.
All right, I'll try. Marco, don't laugh. Okay. Do I start from Eva Mutwa?
Please, yes.
Okay. Evam muktva krish. How history? How do you say that?
Hrishi.
Hirshi kesham kuda kesha parantapha.
Very good.
Nayotsya iti govinda muktva tushnim bahuvaha.
Babhuvaha.
Babu. Yeah, miss out the B, the second B.
You did, yeah.
Yeah, babuvaha, yeah.
You see, that was very good, Naoka. There's no reason to be shy. Yeah, that was okay. It was great. Maybe you'll be less shy next time. Hope you will.
Yeah, actually, I'm very brave to come back today, James. As you know, I left Sanskrit almost 2 years.
Was it 2 years? Well,
Yeah,
we've seen
2
you
years
at
I
Pali
left.
quite a lot, of course.
Pali, I come, but
Yeah,
this
yeah,
one.
yes,
Anyway,
of course.
let's not waste any more time.
I'm glad to. We are all glad to see you back, Orca.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you.
Thanks. No, I broke my own rule there, but I'm glad I did on this particular occasion. So Roger, you're next on screen.
Yeah, well, I'm a bit rusty, but I'll have a go. Eva muktwa harushi kesham kuda kesha parantapaha nayotsya iti govinda muktwa tushnim bavuvaha.
Okay, Roger, that was a very creditable performance, but I'm going to pick you up on the use of a short "o." In Sanskrit, it's never shortened to an "o." It's always an "o." In Pali, it can be shortened to an "o," but it's always long. So nayotsya. And also Govind, you shorten it, Govinda is Govinda. You've got to be very careful in Sanskrit to give it a full long vowel length, even if followed by a consonant cluster as here. Nayotsya, there's a temptation to shorten it because of the following cluster of Nayotsya, but Nayotsya. In Pali, you would shorten it, but in Sanskrit, never. Nayotsya. Okay, thank you, Roger. Barry, we're on to you.
Right. Eva muktva rishikesham guda kesha parantapaha nayotsya iti govinda muktva tushnim babhuvaha.
Okay, that was pretty good, Barry, but just that word tushnim, be careful, get both vowels long. Tushnim.
Tushnim.
Exactly so, tushnim babhuvaha, yeah. Okay, very good. Thank you, Barry.
Thank you.
Madeleine.
Yes. Eva muktva hrishi kesham guda keshaha parantapaha nayotsya iti govinda muktva tushnim babhuvaha.
Okay, very good. Now, one thing, in this Hrishikesha, we've got the two forms of the sh. We've got the retroflex sh there, that's the one that's written with the subdotted s, and we've got the palatal sh written with a slash over the s. Madeleine, are you able to pronounce Hrishikesha, distinguishing those two sounds? Hrishikesha.
Okay. Hrishi kesham. Hrishi kesham.
But the first one, Hrishi, more of a sh. Hrishi.
Rishi kesham.
Okay, that was pretty good. I should mention, however, for those of you who find it difficult to distinguish those two sounds, either in hearing them or in saying them, that even modern Hindi speakers will actually blur the difference. Difference between the dental and the retroflex. sha, for example, that is part of modern Hindi. In fact, it's part of all of the modern, as far as I know, certainly all of the main modern Indian languages. They all have the distinction the, da, and the Indian ear clearly distinguishes between those two. But the distinction between sh and sh, although clearly observed in ancient times, the modern speakers tend not to differentiate between them. And to give you one example, there are several words. The most common one is the word gosha.
Can we see the iPad,
Sorry,
please?
thank you. Yeah. Gosha, which means can mean a store or a treasure, but also the word shabda kosha, a kosha of words, is the word for a dictionary, is sometimes written with a sh and with a palatal, and sometimes written with a retroflex. So even sometime in an earlier form of the language, the speakers become a bit confused as to which was which. But this blurring of, for example, t and da, you would never find, because the Indian ear treats those as two completely different sounds. So if you find difficulty in distinguishing in pronunciation or in hearing between sh and sh, don't worry, you aren't alone. Modern Indians are a bit the same. The only thing is in writing, you've got to observe the distinction, otherwise you misspell. Okay, thank you, Madeleine.
Thank you.
Danny, we're round to you.
Sure. Could I see
Oh, sorry, yeah, here we
your
are.
screen again, please?
Yeah.
Thank you. Eva muktva rishikesham kudakeshaha parantapaha nayotya iti govinda muktva tushnim babhavaha.
I did mention earlier, I said babhava, but only to say that form didn't exist. It's actually babhuva.
Yeah, babhu.
If it were a regular verb, it would be babhava. Babhuva is a bit irregular. And again, can you just pronounce tushnim with the both distinctly long, tushnim?
Tushnim.
Exactly so. Now, one other point I will mention. You pronounce this very correctly, parantapaha, and you pronounce this word as you were reciting Gudakeshaha. If it were standing on its own, you would say Gudakeshaha. But remember, when it's as part of a word group, you don't have the shadow vowel. So you say Gudakesha parantapaha. So the shadow vowel, the aha, you know what I mean by the shadow vowel? That only occurs at the end of a line or a word group.
Okay.
It's not actually wrong what you said. It's just a matter of practice.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Danny, look, I'm terribly sorry. I have asked you before. I don't know why it's left my mind. What is your native language?
Italian.
Italian. Okay,
Yeah.
right. Of course it might be.
My second language is French.
Okay, that's what it is. Okay,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
great.
Mom is French, but I grew up in Italy, so yeah, my first language.
Right.
Yeah.
Actually, it's very interesting, Danny. I'm going to ask you something about the way Marco has his name written on his screen.
Yeah.
He's written Marco, but he's got the accente A, the grave A.
Yeah.
On Marco, but you don't do why is it there, Marco? Come on, tell us.
Mistyping.
Oh, mistyping, that's okay. I'd not seen that before. Okay, got it. Thank you, Marco. Right, we're round to Chris.
Eva muktwa, Hrishikesha, Hrishikesha, Hrishikesham.
I was actually going to say to you, Chris, I'm not going to let you get away with the first one. We're going to come back to it. However, all credit to you. You yourself came back to it and then got it right with your determined effort. Well done. Hrishikesha, or Hrishikesham here in the accusative. It's a bit of an awkward one, but we've got to get the h has got to be distinctly pronounced. So Hrishikesham.
Hrishikesham.
Okay, very good.
Gudakesha Parantapaha Yotsya Yotsya Iti Govinda Muktwa Tushnim Babuvaha.
Okay, right. One thing, Chris. In Pali, if this word came into Pali, you would say it would become Yotche or Yotche. They pronounce it Yotche in Pali, it would be. But it's a T, S, Y, and those three have got to be pronounced fairly distinctly in the Sanskrit. Yotsya, Nayotsya. And again, don't shorten the O, Nayots, so just say Nayotsye.
Nayotsye.
I will not fight Nayot. Exact, that was very good. Repeat it in Nayotsye.
Nayotsye.
Okay, excellent. Okay, thanks, Chris. You got that. Srinimala, please.
Yes. Evamuktva Rishikesham Gudakesham Parantapah Nayotse iti Govindam Muktva Tushnim Babuvaha.
Wonderful. I love this Sri Lankan recitation of it. Yes. Thank you, Srinimala.
Thank you.
So from Sri Lanka, we will proceed northeast to Burma. So Sanyu, would you please come in with your recitation?
Evam muktva Rishikesham Kesha Parandapaha Nayotsya iti Govinda muktva Tushnim Babuvaha.
So Babhuvaha. Say Babhuvaha. Right one. It's a little. Babhuvaha.
Babhuvaha.
Very good. Yeah, you got that right. Okay. Thank you, Sanyu. Thank you.
Thank you.
Palden, and to you.
Evam va Rishikesham Gudakesha Parantapa Nayotsya iti Govinda Muktva Tushnim Babuvaha.
Very good. Have you been practicing over the summer, Palden?
No, not at all. Sorry.
Oh,
but something's obviously stuck. So
okay. Well, okay. I mean, you gave the impression of one who had been practicing. Anyway, well done. Right, Marco, round to you, and then finally Gil after Marco.
Eva muktva Rishikesham Godakesha Parantapah Nayotsya iti Govindam Uktva Tushnim Babuvaha.
Okay, wonderful. So we've got two varieties of the chant. And before we wind up, can we come round to you, Gil?
Evam ukva Hrishikesham Gudakesha Paramtapa Nayotsya iti Govindam Yuktva Tushnim Babuvaha.
Okay, right. That came out as Yuktva, is Govindam Uktva rather than Yuktva.
Govindam
Uktva. That's correct. And can you just say again Parantapaha with that shadow vowel, Parantapaha?
Parantapaha.
Parantapaha. Okay, very good. So am I pronouncing your name correctly as Gil? Is it Gil or Jill?
It's Jill, actually.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. It looks like Gil, but Jill.
Okay. Because there's I've known a couple of Indians recently called Gil. So it's time. So Jill, you're Jill. Jolly good.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. So we've just gone free. We will wind up there. Oops. So I will thank you for rejoining me after the summer break, and hopefully see you again 2 weeks hence. And I'll send out the usual email. And this time we have a recording, and the recording will be made available hopefully this evening, but certainly no later than to tomorrow morning. I'll post it up. I'll send you a link and post it up. Okay, thank you all very much. Thank you. Goodbye then.
Thanks.
Goodbye.
Thank
Bye.
you, James.
Thank
so
you.
much.
Bye.
Grazie.
Goodbye.
Ciao.
Okay.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.
Bye,
Ciao.
James. Bye.
Bye.
Actually, James,
Yes.
I made a mistake. I left your class more than 3 years ago, not 2 years.
Was it more than 3 years ago?
More than 3 years.
Well-
Because I remember I went to the States, I was very ill. I missed out the entire term of your teaching. There's no way I could come back, so I left.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ah.
More than 3 years. Yeah.
Well, a lot
Anyway,
of it
come
has
back.
stuck in your. Well done. Congratulations. A lot of
Come
it
back
has
today.
remained in your mind.
I'm coming back, but most of the time I had no clue what you're talking about.
You're doing well, Walker. Don't be shy. You're very welcome back with us.
I think little by little it will come back.
You are getting
Come
there.
back, yes. Thank you very much for the continuation of your dedication.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank
for
you
saying
very
that.
much, James. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye then. Bye. Bye.